Crime is always a big conversation anytime on PM Express, but tonight we are having one around a controversial term called surge. Is it really a surge? Many of you have been talking about it. There have been several armed robbery cases, highway robbery, stabbings, deaths across the length and breadth of the country, and so there's a lot of conversation about that. But this is coming on the back of a few key incidents. We now have a new administration in charge of policing in this country. Many applaud the initiatives they are taking, but it's time to review the last few weeks because of the many reports that we received about crime across the country. And so we are asking the question, should we be reviewing the security strategy? And that's one of the key things that we'll be looking at. We're breaking that down for you in a way that you can appreciate. The numbers are always important for us, so you can follow us and appreciate where we are with this. And so the reset desk have been combing the, sort of getting through the numbers, trying to understand what is happening. And they put together this graph. This graph tells you a story immediately you look at it, right? It tells you, if you trace in the back, this is the crime index in Ghana. This is according to Statista. And if you look at the trend from 2014, you see that it was not too low, but it was better than what we have it currently at 64% crime. The highest we've had, in fact, is 2019 at 51.95%. And then we've seen that it's dropped since then to 48.97%. And then the further drop, this is by May, right, to 48.52%. That's what we have. Now, so you see how it's played out. I mean, our lowest crime numbers we recorded in 2018. The key question to trace back and ask is, what were we doing differently in 2018 that gave us this score? Should we be doing more of that? Or it had nothing to do with any interventions per se? We'll look at that. But I'm going to draw a line in here and then get a sense of whether overall, if we do the trend analysis, are we seeing a cumulative increase in crime from 2014 to date, or is there a decline? Watch this. That's the green line here. And as it suggests clearly, it is an upward trajectory in terms of crime since 2014. That is why we are having this conversation, because this is up until May 2021. And you see that upward trajectory in the trend line that we've drawn through the graph there. It gives you a picture of what we need to do. The positive to this is that this line isn't steep. It's so almost plateaued, right? And so you can definitely do something about it so it doesn't go further and then it begins to dip by the end of the year. Now, most importantly, this is May. So June, July, August, 3 months, we haven't recorded. We will have records for it. And as we've had a lot of reports in the last few weeks suggesting that we may be recording even more. So it's important to watch this till the end of the year to make sure it doesn't come back. And that's why you're going to be reviewing the strategy going forward. Now, let's break the numbers even more down for you, because you have a total number of reported cases when it comes to murder at 313. And this is first half of 2021. And confirmed cases of this. But we're going to be doing a comparative analysis for you. If you look at the murder case distribution, you are seeing that 261 men, right, representing a percent of 83% more men are more likely to be victims of this particular crime than women, as you see there. Crime statistics, again, for the first quarter, murder cases, doing a comparative analysis now with the previous year, same time, you would actually notice that this has gone up this year, same time, murder. Because last year by this time we recorded 123 murder cases. This year, same period, we're recording 144 murder cases. So murder cases have gone up, and we've seen a few of that this year. A lot of the shootings and the killings you've heard all feed into this particular number that you see on the screen. And so that is one of the areas that we'll be interrogating. How do you address that? As they say, if people know they can get away with murder, then maybe they will not be deterred. And that's why you're going to be seeing this. It's about forensics. It's about crime investigations, if you know you can't get away with murder, you are less likely to do it. And so policing comes down to that. We'll talk about that very shortly. Kidnapping is one of those things that, again, had dropped, which is a positive for the Ghana Police Service. 27% last year, dropped to, 27 last year, it dropped to 26 this year. Good point there. Robbery. And again, this is a very interesting one. Again, note that this is minus June, July, August. 3 months, minus that. But if you do the comparison with last year, and the robbery cases far less this year, well, not far less, but less this year, at 525 last year by this time. Now we're talking about 495. Some may argue that based on the many reports we've had of robbery, highway robberies, etc., we may be hitting a higher number if you compare same period to last year. We'll dig into that for you shortly. If we look at rape cases, again, this year we're doing better than last year. So key question to ask on the back of all these reported cases recently is, especially also because we have a new administration, we've seen a bit of the shake-up in the service. Is it time to review the strategy and see how can we even make it even more better and more responsive to your security needs? That's what we'll be discussing with my guests here on PM Express. Stay with me. And thank you very much for joining us here on PM Express. It's a conversation that we'll return to every now and then based on what the numbers say and what is being reported in the media. One of the key things, obviously, is crime and security. And so I'm delighted to be joined by individuals who know this area very well. And so we can dissect this. And I'm pretty sure you've read, watched, and listened to all the reports in the last few weeks about crime cases, robbery cases, some of them pretty daring. An international journalist who traveling on the road to the north has been, attacked by robbers. It's happened so many times. We've had the former president, John Mahama, actually speak about it and talk about the crime situation in the country. But it's really about you. So let's review the security strategy that we have currently. I'm delighted to be joined by a man who, until very recently, was the director of police operations. So he understands what it takes to address this. He's currently the Director General of Police Public Relations. He joins us via phone. He is ACP Kwesi Fori. I'm grateful that you could join us, sir. Also joining us is Dr. Ishmael Norman. He's the president of the Institute for Security, Disaster and Emergency Studies. Also join us. Always a delight to hear him talk on these matters because he nails it every single time I listen to him. Doc, I'm grateful that you could join us again. Thank you very much. Dr. Jones Opokuwari is a criminologist, crime researcher, and lecturer at the KNUST. Gentlemen, thank you very much. I want to start with you, ACP Kwesi Fori, for obvious reasons. So tell me, I recently, was it yesterday, there was a police statement that says you've arrested a number of people suspected to be involved in several crime activities in the country. I mean, for thousands and those who are listening and watching right now who are worried about their security, what is the police doing differently now to arrest the concerns that people have? But maybe I guess I should start by asking you, what is the police's view on this? Is there a surge in crime? Let's start with that. Internally, is there a surge in crime? Is that what the numbers tell us?
Following developments of robbery in Bono East, some part of the eastern region, and the Northern Corridor, no less a person than the acting Inspector General Police and members of his administration put up a policy, put up a plan, a strategy in place to arrest the situation. As a result, the Special Anti-Robbery Squad were put up in all the aforementioned areas, the three regions. and directed from the police headquarters to partner the various police commands so that we can succeed in getting rid of the armed robbers on the highways. Lo and behold, they are there working very hard and controlling those routes. In addition, the Inspector General of Police paid a working visit to them to assess the situation, to reinforce his message and his plan. As I speak, we are on the Yeji, Kejeji, Kwame Danso, Petuga, all those routes. Through Techiman, we have our men at Aframple, which even they cashing on arms being, transported from one end to the other in that Aframple, which was published, and 21 people arrested. In the Bono East, notorious robbers, numbering about between 40 to 20 have been arrested. They are under investigation. And then there came in the one you referred, international journalist, who was murdered, in and around Kentampo, Tamale, and Wipe. Immediately, the task force moving through intelligence-led operations, we chanced upon them, and they visited armed violence on the police, and the police responded. 2 were killed, 4 arrested. As I speak to you, they are also assisting in investigations. And other pockets of incidents all have been dealt with. And if you look at the time rate at which we intervene, time rate at which we get a suspect, just like any other police, effective police in the world, they've been able to get the suspect involved, and they are investigating, and sooner or later, they might appear before court of competent jurisdiction. So here we are, the police are on top of affairs. It is a new administration that has come in, and they are strategizing seriously to arrest the situation. As I speak to you, we are increasing our numbers in those areas to augment the strength of the various regional command. And here we are. There are some murders also that have taken place in the Volta at Abesi. Quickly, the police step in with all the technical support and other services provided by the administration to ensure that we get to the bottom of the matter. The Inspector General of Police personally visited the place to reinforce our message of getting to the bottom of the matter by meeting the chief of Abesim, meeting the families of the children, the murdered children. As I speak to you today, we upon his directives, the bodies were sent to the police morgue and assure the families that we will do whatever it takes, to get to the bottom of the matter. The bodies at the police hospital. Tomorrow we are coming out in concrete terms. What has happened in terms of pathological examination and how we are assisting, how we're going to assist the family to get the body back. We'll be coming up with some of these facts. So the police is not sleeping at all. Management is at work. And we are doing everything possible as law enforcement agencies to get to the bottom of these matters. And this time around, it is not a question of just investigating, but another cardinal area is public engagement. Along KJG, Kwame Dansu, Yeji, and all those probably Zamrama and so forth. The police leadership is engaging civil populace to rally their support, to promote crime reporting, to assist in providing fruitful information that might lead to arrest of some of these criminals, and even locate stolen items among those which have been retrieved in this ground security operation across the three regions. So, I believe that the police should be seen as an ally in the fight against these the aforementioned crimes. And we'll do everything possible, to be in control with assistance from the public. And we all know crime fighting is a shared responsibility between the police and the civil police. And in addition, we have that symbiotic relationship. And people are assisting in one way or the other. But this time around, we want an all-out support. That is why we are appealing. And we are very happy you've given us your platform, not only today, but many times, to use it to seek support from the civil public.
Yeah, I mean,
likewise other platforms.
I hear a different approach there. And one of the key things I've heard from you right now is the public engagement, not only solving the crime, but engaging the public. Dr. Jones Opokuwari, what's your reading of the current crime situation from a criminological point of view? Has anything changed, or this is just normal in dealing with crime? Sorry, I think you have muted. I can hear you. Yes, I can hear you now. Okay, I can hear you. I can hear you. I can hear you.
You can hear me?
Yes.
Great. Good. So let's see. Before I say anything, I have in my hands here a very comprehensive, crime statistics, from Ghana Police Service, dating as far back as 2010 to 2016. And I also have pieces of crime data from 2017 up to 2018, 2019. And let me just run you through what we have in terms of the patterns of robberies and murders. At least I'm just going to do a very simple analysis for you to see. And then at least all our listeners can begin to now see a certain trend. And now 2012, let me start from 2012. A total number of 1,126 robberies were reported. 2013, it jumped to 1,257. And then in 2014, it dropped to 1,116, and now increasing to 1,411 in 2015. Then in 2016, dropping marginally to 1,397. But check this out. In 2017, it ballooned to 1,762. And then in 2018, it also increased to 1,919. And now what this tells you is that, you see, robbery rates for the year 2018 was actually 6.5%. And in fact, it constituted the highest rate of robberies in the country in a 7-year period. And now, based on the data that I've enumerated, and now the lowest rate of robberies was recorded in 2014, though it also increased a bit to 5.1 in 2015, and then dropping marginally into 4.9 in 2016. And now, based on the data that I've shared with you, what it means is that the patterns of robberies generally are always increasing. And if you look at the years immediately after election years, for instance, you could see that right from 2012, we had an election. The robbery patterns increased in 2013. If you look at the year 2016 and 17, it increased right from 2016 to 2017. So always you can see that immediately we have an election, the years after elections, you have these rates of robberies and other crimes always increasing.
What could possibly be accounting for that?
Yes, I mean, there are a number of reasons why people engage in crimes like robberies. I may not be able to give you the exact reason why immediately after election years, people want to, the patterns go high. But this is what the data seems to tell us. And now for me, if I'm looking at a crime like robbery, I want to first ask myself, why would people want to rob? And now people want to rob because there are what we call crime attractors and crime generators. There are certain things that people need, people want. And those things are those that attract people to commit robberies and certain kind of crimes. So for me, immediately we have all these patterns going up. It tells me that, look, there are so many crime attractors and crime generators within the community. And those things may be what is probably, causing people to commit such kind of crimes.
Let me ask you very quick, yes or no, then I'll come to Dr. Ishmael Norman. Is there a surge in crime, say robberies, in the last few weeks? Would you describe it as a surge? Yes or no?
Yes, I think there's actually an increase. I mean, based on the data, because if you look at what we had as at last year, 2020, and the same period in 2021, you could see some the patterns having, an increment. And for me, that tells me that it is actually going high. And for what is worrying for me is even the violent nature that these robberies seems to have taken. And I remember some time ago, I said that, look, the patterns as we have observed, it seems to be evolving, because now we have more of these crimes happening in broad daylight and also on the streets. And now why are these happening? Because the streets provide, a lot of these crime attractors and crime generators, because money, they say, is on the street. And normally cash is what attracts a lot of people to commit crimes such as robberies. So you see that once a lot of businesses are springing up, you have more people, transacting business, moving money up and down the streets. Automatically, it creates an atmosphere where people think that, look, we can always take advantage of the system. For me, yes.
Just on that point, anecdotally, and Dr. Ishmael Norma, I'll bring you in here. Anecdotally, it's been a while since I had a major robbery in somebody's home, for example. That's what we used to be that's what we were very used to, where at night we all have these barbed wires and we live in prison cages or in Ghana when, you have your burglar proofs where, you hear stories about robbers coming into your home and break. We rarely hear that, but we're now hearing a lot of highway robberies, daylight robberies, etc. Dr. Ishmael, what's your reading then of the situation? Are we blowing this out of proportion, or this is just something to expect in a country like Ghana where poverty is pretty high?
Thank you very much, Evans, and hi to Dr. Jones Opokore.
Thank you, Doc.
I will be worried because 2020, we had a lockdown. So for at least 3 months, nothing was happening in the economy. So if right now the crime rate is catching up in a period of our economic history where activities came to basically a standstill, I will be very worried, and I am worried. Everybody related to crime and crime studies or police work needs to be worried because, in fact, we have seen a surge. I have a problem with the statistics. When you bunch a lot of variables together, the analysis become a little bit confused. But let's take it as it is. And Dr. Opokore has tried to, segregate the statistics a little bit. But I think in the future, when they are giving a read of crime, they have to really break it down and not bunch it together. But the violent crimes is what I worry about. And just as you were saying, that now they are chasing the money, which in terms of private residences is probably a good idea that they are chasing the money. I
must admit, I agree with you. I agree with you. I mean, I go home and I don't necessarily worry too much like I used to.
I know, but you shouldn't relax because these guys, they are very clever. They make rational choices as they are robbing. They know that the street out there, the stream of commerce is bigger than private homes. There are a lot of money on the streets, as we all know. So it's better, don't waste your time. Opportunity cost. There's more to get out in the street than going to somebody's home who may not have any money. So these are some of the analysis that they are making. And for that reason alone, we have to realize that the pattern of crime is changing in Ghana. The police is playing catch up, and that is where I worry. They are using traditional methods of intervention and interception instead of jumping ahead of the curve and then working backwards towards the criminals. They are waiting for something to happen and then go after them. That is not good policing. That is not effective criminal justice intervention.
So you're talking about preemptive policing?
Exactly. Also, there's a problem where the police investigator...
Forgive me, Doug. How would you define preemptive policing? What are the characteristics of that?
That means that the boots on the ground, the policemen and women, the investigators should really get into the community, the various places where the crimes tend to happen. Every time they arrest a criminal, they have to do debriefing to find out where they live and the people they hang out with, because criminals move in gangs.
I think I may have lost this.
There seems to be...
I may have lost his audio there, but he's making such an important point. And I want to quickly bring in Mr. Kwisifori into the conversation very briefly, because, of course, he's still with me. Mr. Kwisifori, respond to that for me. They respond to the issue about preemptive policing. And I know you've been involved with community policing for a while, so you understand this area very well. And that, of course, we are responding to what is happening, reacting, arresting, etc. But Ishmael Norman says we should adopt a preemptive approach to this. What's your reaction to this?
We've adopted a preemptive attitude. If you look at the shift, it is not reactive. Even if you take a look at those who even went to Opebia area to rob a businessman who came out of the bank, the police went ahead and nip that in the bud, where even 3 of them lost their lives, the criminals. Looking at the exercises and security operations that we are conducting of late, the new administration is embarking upon. You might have seen that the police is very proactive, sending our personnel, to the regions and all that. And when the 2 dogs mention money on the street, look at the way some of the mobile money they conduct their business. People changing money on the street in their back, sitting on bicycles. Under normal circumstances, when one wants to go into mobile money activities, they should have a secure place. So you see people carrying money, which is a societal problem. But that notwithstanding, the police patrols and among other things. And let us also look at the way society will shape it so that people avoid changing money on the open street, transacting money on the open street. These are some of the elements that are trapped, and that goes beyond police. Therefore, the police rather should be encouraged, to do more. I quite remember we met the circles, and, when I was involved in operations, we discussed those things and said it is time they review their policy. You cannot be changing money on the open street, carrying money in your bag, and criminals trailing. But notwithstanding, the police, we've done our best, will continue to do whatever is expected of us, to make sure that the ordinary man is put. Now you're talking about the residential. Why are we not raising the country? Everyone. We establish our, emergency call center, and those centers are working, and our response time to crimes is so forth. The police are always there for the community. They are always there for the residential area. And I think it is time that we all shape it to a way that people cannot be carrying anyhow. That's what we need to discussion. It can't do well with us. But it is not necessary.
Yeah, please go on. Please go on.
For instance, looking at feeding from one city to the other, to the Northern Corridor, we've always advised through public education that people should not carry money. People should not carry money. The burger issue, for instance, if you listen to the story, it seemed to be one man who was carrying a huge money that was attacked, and sometimes there are people around them. So to understand the good work that the police is doing, and I believe that together we can do better, and the police will continue, to engage in preventive policing among others.
Okay.
We are not into reactive, no.
Good. Dr. Joseph Pokua, we've heard a lot tonight from ACP Kwesi Fori there. What's your assessment of, also bear in mind that this is a new police administration, recently done a reshuffle. We've had some ideas from them on new thinking, and he's expressed a few of them. What's your assessment so far of how this administration is going about dealing with crime?
Okay, thank you very much, Ivan. I think it looks promising based on some of the things I've read and I've seen. And I see more of, the intention to deploy technology, especially more in the crime fight and crime control, which for me looks very promising. But you see, technology alone may not necessarily solve crimes. In fact, for instance, if you see around, we have all these cameras all over town. And I always tell people that though cameras, for instance, are good, okay, they don't prevent crime. They only act as deterrents. Because if you look at recently a crime that happened at Kumasi Maxima, okay, where a lady was shot. I mean, right beneath where the lady was shot was one of these CCTV cameras. So you see that though the camera was there, it couldn't even act as enough deterrent for those criminals, in terms of the kind of activity they did there. So for me, I see the approach, I see glimpses of, trying to, deploy technology and maybe doing more of community engagement. Because you see, one important way for you to fight crime is to do more of community engagement, because you see, most of these crimes are committed by people who live among us. In communities, we have what we call criminal role models, and people know them. These role models serve as leaders for certain group of people within community, and the community members sometimes know them. Okay, so most of the time, it is important that the approach involves more of community engagement. Sometimes at work, I used to discuss with people that how many times have you ever seen the police even knocking on your door and doing a welfare check? You hardly see that in this country, where a policeman will just pop into your home. Okay, so Jones, I just passed by to see how this house everybody was doing. You don't normally find that. But this is an approach that's all over the world. In terms of proper policing, you see this kind of community engagement, because it is the community that will give you more information. It is the members of the community that hold key to the information to the police in terms of crime control and crime fighting. So if the police is to only sit somewhere and only become reactive, and let me tell you, I was reading a crime and safety report by the U.S. Embassy, for 2020, and they refer specifically to the Ghana Police Service as a reactive force. And for me, I think that was a serious indictment, because if you have a police service that only reacts when the crime happens, it is problematic. So I'm very happy to hear DSP Kwesi Fori say that now they want to go more into preventive and proactive policing, where it will be led by intelligence. For me, that should be a key. And if this current administration is to look at that, for me, it's going to work perfectly for us.
Dr. Ashman Norman, I lost you briefly. What's your assessment of everything you've seen, heard, and read, and tonight heard again from Mr. Kwesi Fori on how the new approach you're taking? Hello, Dr. Norman. Okay, I think he's frozen again. I'm going to take a quick break. When I return, I will hear his thoughts on assessing this new administration in the midst of the obviously the crime conversation that we are having. Stay with me. My guest on the show tonight discussing the recent crime situation in the country in the midst of the new ideas. The new police administration, of course, is injecting into dealing with the situation. Dr. Jones Opoku-Ware is a criminologist, crime researcher and lecturer at the KNUST. Dr. Ishmael Norman is the president of the Institute for Security, Disaster and Emergency Studies. We also have ACP Kwesi Fori, head of is the Director General of Police Public Affairs. Recently, of course, until recently was the Director of Operations. He's laid out for us so that what the plan is. Dr. Ishmael Norman, I was asking you just before the break. You raised the issue about preventive policing. We've had Kwesi Fori lay out their strategy, which includes preventive policing. What has been your assessment so far of this new administration in the midst of the crime situation that we currently have?
Okay, Evans, Kwesi Fori, ACP Kwesi Fori told us that in the Bupe Bolga Tamale Road incident, there was only one person that was carrying large sums of money. If the criminals have superior intelligence and they can have access to such information before the police, I doubt if whatever it is that they are going to do preemptive policing is really going to work. Because as Dr. Opoku was saying, you need to get into the community, and the police's community engagement is very poor. And in my whole life in where I live, I have never seen the police engaging anybody for 25 years. So I wonder whether it's just talk, because if it's just talk, then they should stop it. But if they're going to do serious work, let us see the result. Do arrest the people before the crime, because the way that they are engaging the criminals, killing them, is also not a very good way.
I think we may have lost his feed again and possibly had it frozen there. Do I still have with me ACP Kwesi Fori? Because I want to see get his thoughts on it.
Let me come out.
Yes.
You see, it goes into the security issues, academia. Most of them don't come closer, even to the police, to find out what their police is doing. They rather base the evidence from the United States, UK, ancient big countries. But how many times have they even come, in the academy, in their respect to their local police? You don't find them. For instance, the measures being taken by the new administration, engaging communities, spearheaded by the police leadership. Spearheaded, we have community outreach programs from community policing departments, commanders engaged in outreach programs, and so forth. We don't see them. For him to say for 25 years he has not seen an outreach program by a police is so sad as a Ghanaian. And all that I want to entreat those into academic research, those into public safety issues. The police is an open-up institution. They should come in and conduct their research than mounting platforms and talking badly about their police. It is time we look into our country and develop our own than putting up evidence from elsewhere. I have never seen such as that for 25 years. Police has never done any engagement in education. It is very ridiculous. And let me say that the administration will well focus. It will not be engaged in argument. That will not bring such benefit to the study. But we are being led by a competent administration who will do whatever it takes to sanitize, crime-prone areas, engage communities, talk to them. Even at the scene, we saw what I said. You was Azamrama. The media, including Joy FM and other big news, covered that community engagement when he was talking to people and treating them to encourage crime reporting and treating them, to provide information. And with all this, and even doing media content analysis of our papers and so forth, if really we are into academic research and other things, you might see a lot. Even don't forget, if you say 25 years, Joy FM, you use it to give us one of the biggest platforms in crime education and community engagement and so forth with Israelites. And a lot has happened. So for them to say 25 years, I don't think so. Let's do content analysis. Let's take graphic. Let's take time. Let's take any newspaper. 10 years, 5 years, 25 years. Let's go into it. And I think the answer will be for the police.
I mean, Dr. Ismail Norman, I mean, under the current IGP, Mr. Dampare, you must admit that there's a change, there's a certain different approach to doing policing, is it not? I mean, Christopher is talking about the leadership. Mr. Dampare himself is out there in the community doing community outreach and engaging people. At least you're seeing that on the ground.
Okay, that is superficial police engagement. I'm talking about deep immersion in the community, just as the criminals are deeply immersed, so that they can tell you when the IGP goes on the street, it's photo opportunity. That is not community engagement and community entrance. It's not.
Oh, well, I mean, so
if they don't know what it is, they should approach us. We will help them to develop the skills. But that is not a community entrance or community engagement. Ghana police community engagement is very poor, and community entrance is also very poor. They don't want to accept it, that is okay, but the reality is that you ask your neighbor if in the last 10 years, 5 years, 1 year, they have had any engagement with any police, and the answer will be zero.
Dr. Pokuwari, so how do we change that? Let's practicalize this then. Of course, Christopher disputes that.
Are we on?
Yes, we're on. I mean, sorry, Mr. Dr. Norman, I think I lost you. You were making a point. Just wrap up for me briefly. Let me see if I can get Dr. Pokuwari in. I think I lost him again. Yes, Dr. Pokuwari, I'm saying, how do we make that a more permanent, sustainable feature of policing in Ghana then?
Yeah, so Evans, I think let me just say ACP Kwesifori should just come down, because what we are doing is to give him information that is on the ground. I mean, we live in communities. Okay, as I said, policing is basically a community-led approach. Okay, so we are actually giving him a certain reality of people, of us, because we are also members of communities. Okay, we live with people and we live with the police and we know how they interact with us. Okay, so it's nothing for him to be sensational about. It is not an indictment, but I'm thinking that it is more of giving them some kind of clue so that we can better make our police service work for us and be more responsive to the needs of the communities. So for me, I think that it should be a very clear program that is set up and decentralized across all the divisions and across all the police areas. Look, I have a problem with the way sometimes our policing system is centralized. For instance, when this Abyssine issue happened, though I want to appreciate the IGP for moving in swiftly to Abyssine and then, sympathizing with the family and promising, I still had a problem with the fact that we have to move, the police investigation and everything to Accra. I mean, for me, that kind of approach is counterproductive, and it doesn't help, especially in strengthening local policing. So for me, I was thinking that what he could have done was to bring in experts probably from Accra to work together with the people within the community, of Abyssine, to unravel whatever mystery that is happening there. Because look, I have listened to people within that community, and they still tell me that apart from what has happened in Abyssine, that the police have arrested a guy, there are still cases of missing people within that area. So what that tells me is that the police people there needs to be empowered. Their capacity has to be built so that on their own, we don't need to bring people from Accra before they can work. On their own, within the Abyssine area, they can police crimes and also police, the communities. So these are the things that we are talking about. And they can do these things when they work together in the community, when there is actually a well thought out plan where periodically we will see the police, interacting with community members and then getting their views and getting their opinion, getting information for them. And now if the community members see the police as very far off from them, look, they will develop a lethargy and mistrust for the police and will not even be able to come in and give you information. So that is the kind of plan I want to see the police bring, where periodically there must be a coded and very systematic, laid down plan, where periodically at any point in time, the police can move into communities and then interact with people and then assure them of their safety and security, rather than always listing the IGP will come, that's fine, but then taking all cases to Accra and then coming in and going, really, it serves to kill the local capacities of communities when we should rather be building it.
I mean, Dr. Ishmael, so this a lot boils down to the man at the helm, right? We've made a recent change. I mean, you admit that for this new administration, at least the man at the helm is pretty progressive, pretty open-minded, right? What changes do you expect him to lead in the wake of this conversation we are having? For example, I lost him there on the screen, but let me turn back and see if we can get his attention here. I mean, what changes do you expect him to lead then with some of the challenges we've identified? Very briefly, so I can get...
Prosecuting crimes. He needs to work with the Attorney General to change that. The legal council needs to change that, because we cannot... There's obvious conflict of interest. There's obvious collusion going on between investigators and prosecutors, and he's making the rule.
Unfortunately, I lost him again. Let me give a final word to ACP Kwesi Afori. Mr. Kwesi Afori, I know you've recounted a lot of the changes you're already embarking on to try and deal with some of the issues identified and also win the war against crime. What are some of the, based on everything you've heard, is there anything that you believe some new initiatives in the pipeline under the new administration that will be rolled out in the coming days to further reassure the public that the police is on top of the issue?
We'll be rolling out a lot of programs that will enlist public support at local, regional, and national level. And things will be done, to get people involved in policing. A lot of watch committees, a lot of residential associations are being briefed and advised on security issues, how they should keep their home, how they should keep their communities. A lot will be rolled out. And regarding that issue, to Dr. Wari, you might have noticed that initially the police administration provided technical support to the command. Personnel from the Department of Counseling made available to the families of the victims. And a lot, went into it. Personnel were dispatched, but due to some technicalities, when some bodies were found, when some, bodies were found in the fridge, that is mutilated body was found in the fridge or freezer or whatever. And looking at technical advice from the forensic experts among others, we sent the two bodies to Accra, for pathological and forensic examination. And that does not mean we intend killing the local initiative. I believe that they've also learned through that partnership. And we even made it, the IGP even made it known that we're developing capacities of the regional command, the local police, to enable them confront crime in their localities. Therefore, bringing one case to Accra on the advice of technical men in uniform does not suggest that we're trying to take the local content out. Therefore, I want to assure him and people of like mind. That the police, there is a lot of decentralization. That's why we have 18 police commands. Recently, we created a casual one. It's part of decentralizing. It's part of making police available to our people. And centralization is no more a thing that we hold on to.
Okay. Okay. I'm grateful that you joined us, Mr. Kwesi. This is a lot of things will play out. We'll see as we proceed. I'm grateful, Dr. Ishmael. I'm grateful, John Sopoku. Enjoy the rest of your evening.